Hi there and welcome to day 20 of the 6-week challenge. Today is Sunday and it is Father's Day, so in about half an hour I'm going to be off out for lunch at Zizzi's, which is an Italian restaurant in the UK. I'm not sure if they have it in America or everywhere else around the world, maybe. Does nice food, and actually it has quite a some good options on the menu which taste really, really nice but are actually not so bad for you. So I've already had a look at the menu. I've worked out that I'm probably going to do about 1,200 calories worth of food over lunch. I'm not going to have any beer. I'm just going to stick to water, but yeah, which will be fine. And then have a light supper tonight. And actually that will still keep me in deficit for the day. I won't quite hit the, sorry, I just have a hair in my mouth. I won't quite hit the 2,000 deficit that I'm normally after, but I'll hit a deficit, and that's pretty good for a day when you're going out for a meal. So happy about that. So today I want to talk to you about food cravings again. I want to talk to you about some recent scientific research on it. Now, I'm putting myself back to how it used to be, and actually even now sometimes with food, there's certain kind of foods which I just find absolutely bloody irresistible. So walk past freshly baked bread, walk past a nicely cooked donut, or some kind of cakes, burgers, pizza, things like that. Absolutely bloody love them, and I find them quite hard to resist. And I always thought that it was a problem with me, and actually, it was something that, no willpower, weak-willed guy, and it became part of the story I used to tell myself and put myself down about for not being successful in my weight loss attempts. But recent research has come out which talks about something called the golden ratio and food addiction. So the basic idea behind it is that if you eat certain kinds of food, it helps to release something called dopamine in your body, and dopamine in itself is a drug that kind of makes you feel a little bit better and good about things. But what it does is it reinforces certain behaviors by saying, well, that was good for you, so you want to do that again. So here's a nice little feeling. And it gets to a point with some of the foods that it does with, like the pizzas, like chocolate, milk chocolate especially, burgers and things like that, where even just looking at it triggers that response and you start to get the dopamine, which makes you crave actually having that item. Now, historically, it goes back to when we were hunter-gatherers, and it was beneficial for you to want to eat high energy, high calorie foods. But actually what the food industry does is it's mimicked a certain kind of food which was the most beneficial food for all of us when we were born. Now, this might sound a bit woo-woo-ish, but it's not. This is grounded in fact, and it is mother's milk. Now, your mother's milk and also formulas today, which people have if they're not breastfed, has a ratio of 1 part of fat to 2 parts of carbohydrate, almost exact ratio of that. And we know that that is the best thing for when we are children and when we are babies, to give us energy and to get us going and to actually help us as kids. I mean, obviously it's full of lots of antibodies and other things as well, but from a food point of view, from a nutritional point of view, that is the ratio. Obviously there's proteins as well, but that's not the thing that actually makes it addictive and make you want crave more. And if you look at the foods which make us really salivate, like burgers, like pizzas, like donuts, like milk chocolate, they also have a golden ratio of 1 part fat to around 2 parts of carbohydrate, which again is something which is optimal for us as human beings to eat in order to get energy and to grow. And it becomes something that becomes quite addictive. So what they've actually done, the clever bastards in the food industry have done, is they've made this stuff that is really, really appealing to us. We don't know until we've eaten it. It may look kind of appealing, but when you actually have that first bite, it takes you back on a subconscious level to your mother's breast, which sounds kind of weird, but actually that milk, the stuff that's really important for you, and actually in the brain, it actually triggers that response of dopamine, which actually gets you quite excited and makes you think, well, actually this must be really, really good for me, because it's the stuff that I had when I was first born. It's the stuff that actually my body needs to get energy and to survive. So give me more, which is why people will binge on chocolate. Crisps, same thing. Why people will binge. If you look at a deep fried crisp, which most chips or crisps are, then it's the same thing. You've got the carb to fat ratio 1 to 2, and it's that same thing. And so you binge, you eat, you binge, you eat, because your brain is saying to you, hey, this is really good and it's addictive. It is a kind of addiction, not in the sense of drugs or alcoholism, but it does actually cause that. And it's just your brain's natural response to actually crave that and want that, and kind of force you to it. So when you're walking past a burger place, or you're walking past a bakery where there's donuts cooked, or a pizzeria, and you can smell the smell of pizza and your brain's going, want to eat now, it's not your fault. it is not your fault. It is your brain saying, hey, this is something that's naturally going to be good for me because of how they've been created. So, you know, the power has been taken away from us to some degree. But the good news is that there are ways that you can combat this and actually make it so that you can override this urge that your brain creates. And I discovered this quite recently, and again, it's in recent research, and it's talking about the prefrontal cortex in the brain. Now, this area, when it gets more developed and more trained, is actually able to counter those requests and those innate responses, so that you can have, well, what we might call willpower, but actually it's being able to rationalize and to not have it. And there are a series of exercises which we'll go into in another video, where we actually talk about what those are. But one of the key things around that is actually play and relaxation. Mindfulness is another thing as well. So people talk about mindfulness. I'm not necessarily well, actually I am recommending people practice mindfulness because it's absolutely brilliant, but it sounds again quite woo-woo-ish. But what it does, if nothing else, when you practice mindfulness and you practice some kind of form of thoughtfulness and gratitude and meditation or that kind of thing, it helps to develop the prefrontal cortex, which helps you with your food cravings, which helps you be present at a moment and not just rely on that kind of like click work kind of thing, where it's like, oh, you know, that instant habit loop that we talked about yesterday, where, oh, I smell that, I'm instantly going to go and eat something, I'm just going to go and get my chops into it and get that down my neck and then feel good for it afterwards, and then feel, oh, ashamed, and it becomes a self-defeating thing. So that's one of the things you look at. So I recommend having a look into just some basic mindfulness exercise that you can have a look at and start to think about all relaxation, just to help you get some more control over that, if, like me, you find those things utterly bloody irresistible, which I do. Anyway, on that note, I am going to go out for lunch now. Really looking forward to it. And I will speak to you tomorrow when we will be hitting the 3-week mark, the last part of week 3. And then the day after that will be weigh day, and we'll see how we've done after a week with 2 meals out and one particularly big session, as we talked about earlier in the week. So I hope you have a great day, and I will speak to you tomorrow.